We went against this god-awful biggest waste of human flesh and basketball uniform Western Illinois team last time out. Remember, they actually won a game against Eastern Illinois. Only their fifth win on the season, 5-21. Only their first win in conference play in the Ohio Valley. They're hosting Little Rock. You know, Little Rock is 6-8. They're halfway decent. I mean, they're better than 5-21.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
They're probably not going to take a lot of Seattle bets. Putting Kansas City at the same number as Detroit or behind LA, way behind Green Bay, way behind Buffalo or Baltimore, who they beat every year, it feels like they are asking for Chiefs money. That would be my read on it, which I feel like usually the idea, Cam, is they never have to ask for Chiefs money.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Was last night so tough for you to swallow that you now want to get rid of the owner?
Yeah, that's right.
Because the big bad Knicks came into town off an embarrassing loss,
On a
and you
back-to-back.
guys were flexing your muscles
They
about
were not
how
flexing anything.
we're back.
Nope.
We're back. And you lost by 50?
Yeah, well, this is the problem.
Let's make the owner sell the team because
Man, he ducked the luxury
Sixers
tax.
can't compete.
The Craig Carton Show only on SportsGrid.
Hey everybody, welcome in. This is NewsWire here on SportsGrid, and for the next 90 minutes, we are going to hit on a bit of everything. NFL Draft, we will recap the NBA's All-Star Weekend, Olympic action on the ice in particular, and baseball, so much more. We're going to do so much over the course of these 90 minutes with some great guests in front of us as well. But let us begin by setting the table with some of the latest news that has happened in the sports world in just the last little bit. In the last half hour or so, news coming down from the Miami Dolphins, who of course have a new general manager, a new head coach, and are going to have a new looking product on the field as well that will not include Bradley Chubb or, more notably, Tyreek Hill. You see the picture there in the tweet from Adam Schefter. Miami's 8-time Pro Bowler, the wide receiver Hill, is being released. Hill turns 32, in a couple of weeks on March 1st. He's recovering from a dislocated knee and a torn ACL, will now be an unrestricted free agent for the first time in his career. Now, Hill in his time with Miami overall, 54 games, 340 catches, almost 5,000 yards. Remember, those first two seasons, he was incredible. 1,700 yards and about 1,800 yards, respectively. 28 total touchdowns, an All-Pro a couple of times, and voted the NFL's top player in the top 100 after the 2023 season. But of course, due to that injury, only, 4 games last year. And so what does that mean for Hill's future as he recovers? Again, unrestricted free agent. For my money, and we'll see how it all plays out, don't be surprised by kind of a prove-it deal back with his old team in Kansas City and helping out Patrick Mahomes in a very thin receiving core that they have right there as he looks to, even at an advanced football age, if you will, rehabilitate his career approaching 32 years old. Short-term, 1, maybe 2 years, low money, wouldn't surprise me at all. So keep an eye on that as we get going with the NFL offseason. But to look back on what we just experienced over the last couple of days at the Intuit Dome in Los Angeles, the NBA All-Star festivities, I would say for the most part, successful. Going in reverse order, looking at yesterday, it was a round-robin competition. Team Stars, the winners, against Team Stripes and Team World. You had 4 games, each of those lasting 12 minutes, 1/4 of action. Of course, right there, pictured on your screen, Anthony Edwards, the MVP across his 3 games, was very, very good. 32 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 13 of 22 from the field, 6 of 14 from 3. A deserving MVP again on the winning squad. But I think what really jumps out is the fact that Kawhi Leonard, for one, had north of 30 points in only one game at one point there in a win, including the game-winning three-pointer in a victory over Team World. So once more, 12-minute quarters. He went for 30-plus points in a quarter. So these were not generally lower-scoring games. You had anywhere between high 60s to low 90s across the 4. But you had 3 games in the round robin, each with a game winner: Scotty Barnes, De'Aaron Fox, and of course Kawhi, as mentioned before. Unfortunately, sort of brought down the hype and tempo of the night, or afternoon as it were, in LA. A blowout there in the championship with a 20-point win for Team Stars against Team Stripes. Nevertheless, the reason this kind of won the day for a lot of fans out there who clamor year after year, how do we fix the NBA All-Star game, was the fact that you had players out there trying. Anthony Edwards certainly took a cue from Team World star and one of the faces of the league, Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, he set the tone, and it was definitely competitive with all 3 teams. I feel like the old heads played hard too. They was playing real good defense. But yeah, he set the tone, man, and it woke me up for sure.
Again, here on the left side, third row.
And we see the MVP trophy right there. First off, congratulations on that. How does it feel, to get that get back in the last game against the OGs?
It felt good. Kay, before we walked out, Kay was like, man, we got to get our lit back. So, we came out and stomped on them.
Over here on the third row, we got the microphone coming your way.
And I'm not going to lie, you were cooking people out there. Where do you get your confidence from? Is it just something you're born with, or is it just something that you've gotten over the years?
I feel like it come from the work, like all the hours I put in the gym. I'm always in the gym, so being in the gym, shooting those shots all the time, is just, you build confidence within that.
As far as All-Star Saturday, what once was All-Star Saturday night, again, an afternoon affair, everything bumped up this year with NBC's coverage due to the Olympics. Understandable. Actually, I think it worked out pretty well for people on the East Coast that didn't necessarily want to stay up late watching these things. Saturday's festivities, not incredible. The 3-point contest was pretty entertaining, however. Damian Lillard, who was out this entire year with his Achilles injury, still a participant and now a 3-time champion of the event, ousted Devin Booker in the final 29-27. So Lillard getting the crown again for the 3rd time. Won't see him on the court at all this year outside of this, so a lot of people were hyped up about it. Personally, and I've talked about this on other SportsGrid programming, I didn't, it was fun to see, and actually I bet on Lillard, so it was fun to cash the ticket. I just thought it was a little bit ridiculous and stupid, quite frankly, because there are plenty of active players who are deserving. Nevertheless, he was a participant and made the most of it. Now, as far as the dunk contest goes, you had Keishad Johnson win this thing. If you're thinking who, you're entitled to feel that way, because you had 4 participants in this thing, including Jackson Hayes, who's the only one probably that you've even heard of. From there, 2 rookies and another guy who's only been in the league for a couple of years. It was a terrible, terrible competition. Not entertaining at all. The dunks were not glamorous, not impressive by NBA dunk contest standards. I'm not sitting here saying I could do these things, but given what you expect in a centerpiece event at All-Star festivities and looking for a showdown of sorts in the dunk contest, very, very, very underwhelming and disappointing. Quite frankly, not only in terms of name recognition, but performance, it might have been the worst dunk contest that we have ever seen. And making matters worse, Mac McClung, of course, of G League fame and NBA All-Star Weekend fame, the reigning 3-time champion, did not participate in the event. Now, whether he wasn't asked to or simply declined, that I'm not sure, but he was not out there, and he had said going into the event that he was going to release the 4 dunks that he would have used in the event on social media after everything went final. He did exactly that, and I'll tell you what, all 4 that he displayed in the pre-produced video there were better than anything that we saw, even one out of any of the participants in the event. So it was incredibly unfortunate. The Shooting Stars competition, congrats to producer Frank and Team Knicks. They came away with the victory. Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, and Allen Houston in this one. And I'll tell you what, between winning the NBA Cup, the in-season tournament, winning this event here, why not sprinkle the Knicks at around 15-1 to win the NBA championship? Because who knows how many banners we might see for both of these things. You know, Knicks fans, they like to celebrate just a little bit of anything. And this one came home for them against the Harpers and the Legends and other participants. Good on them. But yeah, I think overall, NBA All-Star Weekend was a reasonable success. Again, the three-point contest was really the showcase event, and the games, not too bad. Now, LeBron James, was it the last time that we will see him participate in these things? Of course, I mean, hard to say. He's not going to answer those questions, but he'll always be asked, and he gave us this.
LeBron, I guess I should ask, do you still have the same uncertainty about next year? Do you have an inkling of what you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I want to live. When I know, you guys will know. I don't know. I have no idea. I just want to live. That's all. I think what I want to do at 45, 50, and 55 will be a lot of creating great vibes and fun with my family and my friends. That's one of my passions. Create memories that will last forever, you know, and so that's for sure. That's the most important for me, you know, creating things that we will never ever forget. So, you know, my family, my friends, of course.
Congrats to Colin Morikawa for his win at Pebble Beach. Next up, College Hoops with Bill Bender. Stick around.
We went against this god-awful biggest waste of human flesh in basketball uniform Western Illinois team last time out. Remember, they actually won a game against Eastern Illinois. Only their fifth win on the season, 5-21. Only their first win in conference play in the Ohio Valley. They're hosting Little Rock. You know, Little Rock is 6-8. They're halfway decent. I mean, they're better than 5-21.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
They're probably not going to take a lot of Seattle bets. Putting Kansas City at the same number as Detroit or behind LA, way behind Green Bay, way behind Buffalo or Baltimore, who they beat every year, it feels like they are asking for Chiefs money. That would be my read on it, which I feel like usually the idea, Cam, is they never have to ask for Chiefs money.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Was last night so tough for you to swallow that you now want to get rid of the owner?
Yeah, that's right.
Because the big bad Knicks came into town off an embarrassing loss.
On a
and you
back-to-back.
guys are flexing your muscles
They
about
were not
how
flexing anything.
we're back.
Nope.
We're back. And you lost by 50.
Yeah, well, this is the problem.
Let's make the owner sell the team because
Man, he ducked the luxury
Sixers
tax.
can't compete.
The Craig Carton Show only on SportsGrid.
Back here on NewsWire, and thrilled to welcome in our first guest to the program, and one of a few that call Sporting News home. Sporting News senior writer Bill Bender on Twitter at BillBender92 for some college basketball talk. Bill, were you enjoying Valentine's Day at all, or were you instead, locked into all things Arizona, Texas Tech?
Well, my wife and I went out for a drink or two, but I kept peeking up at that game, and I just was like, oh, it's overtime. We can watch one more possession. Obviously a thriller between the Wildcats and the Red Raiders. Arizona didn't shoot well from three and still had a look at the end. JT Toppin, what a wonderful game by him, 31-13. I mean, this is life in the Big 12. It's an unbelievable conference where, Arizona goes from the number 1 overall seed to, are they still a number 1 seed in less than a week? That's how competitive this conference is.
Well, that's the thing. A 23-0 start and now back-to-back narrow losses. Of course, as you said, OT with Texas Tech, that was 78-75. Before that, back on Monday, Kansas 82-78. And so is this just kind of one of those in-season lulls, pitfalls? Very few teams obviously truly flirt with going undefeated, or is there something more to this?
I don't think there's something more. I mean, the Kansas environment they ran into Monday was brutal. And then you get into a game like that where Texas Tech is tough. And, this happens. Had they lost these games over the span of the last 3 weeks, we wouldn't even be talking about it much. And I mean, obviously, Arizona's super talented basketball team, strong quad 1 record. I think the only thing it really did was separate maybe Arizona from Michigan, who Michigan is now the number 1 overall seed in most bracketologies, ours included. And I think it's just because this Wolverines team looks like the team to beat heading into the final couple months of the final month of the season, really.
You mentioned Kansas again, tough environment, obviously, and able to get that win against Arizona, but responded by getting absolutely trucked against Iowa State here last time out, 74-56. So big win there for the Cyclones. What'd you make of it?
I mean, Darren Peterson, we're going to talk about him again, and had a rough night after Monday, not being in the game. He's the X factor for this Kansas team that is terminally frustrating. I made the joke earlier. I mean, Kansas will probably ride the wave of this and still be a number 1 or number 2, or at most, at worst, a number 3 seed in the tournament. And we know what their home run swing is. I mean, Arizona felt that. They are a loaded team, but I feel like we've had this conversation since I was in 6th grade, where you ask yourself that question: can Kansas win 6 tournament games? And it always, and I can tell you how that question's normally answered. But if Peterson is that guy, I mean, yeah, they'll definitely have a chance to do it.
Reminds me of a few weeks back, I saw one of those Moneyball Billy Bean, but with Jonah Hill. I don't remember his character's name in the movie, or DePodesta, right? That one of those memes that was going around on social media, except it was talking about Peterson and saying, he's these tools and this skill set and this wingspan, all these things. His drawback is he hates playing basketball. Does this look like a guy, obviously, to you that, he obviously is going to be a top 3 pick in the draft and a centerpiece and conceivably a star based on all the talent that he has? But I don't know, is there a want, a will that seems to be missing in his game that contributes to, as you said, a terminally frustrating squad?
Well, I can't make that value judgment. I'm sure he'll have a great NBA career, or at least a good one. But it's hard to say, hey, we're going to place all these values on it. I mean, as far as Kansas goes, there's got to be that 1-2 for this team. Like I said, they've got the pieces around him to make a national championship run. And you saw that last Monday night without him, that they could, win a game like that. Can they win 6 games like that? I think it's under the question, but it is certainly sure to be a hot topic all the way up into the NBA draft. I mean, somebody's going to land him, but that drive, I mean, the best way you can answer that is play. Zion Williamson had the injury. He played. Cooper, I've almost called him Cooper Cup twice. Cooper Flagg had the injury last year in the ACC tournament to scare. But what did he do? He went out and played. And I think that's the best way to silence those questions, is you go out and play at a high level. And if he does that, everything else will take care of itself.
After a busy weekend, it is a light slate tonight on the college hardwood, but you do have a marquee event coming up at 9 Eastern. 2 top 5 teams in action, with Houston taking on Iowa State here. And Houston, at last look, a 2.5-point dog. We have seen some line movement across this game. What are you expecting here?
I mean, Iowa State, they're a really good team. These teams have split the last 4 meetings. The winner hasn't scored more than 73 points in any one of those games. And I think that's a really interesting trend to watch. Houston can still play defense. I mean, at some point, Kelvin Sampson's going to break through with this team. And this is another team just kind of floating under the radar, playing awesome defense. And but one thing to note, Iowa State has won the last 2 home meetings between these schools. And you expect the typical fist fight. And again, it just speaks to this Big 12 depth. I mean, Iowa State, Houston, Arizona, Kansas, BYU, all of those teams, in my opinion, are more than capable of making a Final Four run.
BYU beat just barely Colorado 90-85. Congrats to Cougars fans on getting your half-off pizza, by the way, at Papa John's. But they lost their star player, Richie Saunders, to a torn ACL. I know there were multiple stars across BYU, including another standout freshman, as we talk about those guys, and AJ DeBonsa. But how debilitating do you think this is going to be for BYU going forward with the tournaments right around the corner?
Well, it puts more on DeBonsa now. I mean, obviously, the last 4 games, they lost 4 in a row. Then they bounced back last week against Baylor and Colorado. DeBonsa, last 4 games, 30 points per game. I mean, so he's going to have to take on more of that scoring load. You want to talk about a fabulous player and one that can carry them. Now, will this impact BYU's seed? Probably a little bit. It's a little bit like North Carolina losing Wilson. I mean, obviously, when you have an injury like that, it's going to impact the play on the court. But BYU is still one of those dangerous teams. I think they're a cut under all those other contenders we talked about. But if AJ plays well, he can carry that team through one of those Final Four runs.
A quick look at the odds to win the Big 12 before we break here. You have Houston sitting at the top at -165, followed by plus money across the board: Arizona, Kansas, Iowa State, Texas Tech, in that order. Where would you put your money?
I'd put it on Houston because defense still wins championships. I'll end this segment with one of those cliches everybody loves to hear, especially if they can win tonight.
Without a doubt. Much more on the way with Bill Bender, continuing to look back at the weekend that was on the college hardwood and upcoming games as well. He had a fight break out in Providence, by the way. We're going to touch on that when we come on back.
We went against this god-awful biggest waste of human flesh and basketball uniform Western Illinois team last time out. Remember, they actually won a game against Eastern Illinois. Only their 5th win on the season, 5-21. Only their 1st win in conference play in the Ohio Valley. They're hosting Little Rock. Little Rock is 6-8. They're halfway decent. I mean, they're better than 5-21.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
They're probably not going to take a lot of Seattle bets. Putting Kansas City at the same number as Detroit or behind LA, way behind Green Bay, way behind Buffalo or Baltimore, who they beat every year, it feels like they are asking for Chiefs money. That would be my read on it, which I feel like usually the idea, Cam, is they never have to ask for Chiefs money.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Was last night so tough for you to swallow that you now want to get rid of the owner?
Yeah, that's right.
Because the big bad Knicks came into town off an embarrassing loss.
On a
and you
back-to-back.
guys are flexing your muscles
They
about
were not
how
flexing anything.
we're back.
Nope.
We're back. And you lost by 50?
Yeah, well, this is the problem.
Let's make the owner sell the team because
Man, he ducked the luxury
Sixers
tax.
can't compete.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
We're back with Bill Bender here. He is a Sporting News senior writer on Twitter at BillBender92, talking college basketball. And Bill, one kind of fun moment over the weekend, of course, St. John's defeated Providence 79-69. So a 10-point win there in Rhode Island for the Johnnies. But, you know, the real story from this game were all of the ejections, obviously. 6 players were kicked out of this Big East clash as it was a hard foul brought on, and then just everyone kind of retaliating led to a big scrum like you don't tend to see these days. A little, Malice in the Palace throwback, so to speak. But what'd you make of what you saw?
Well, yeah, a fun moment for everybody, but who took the foul from Duncan Powell. I mean, I think that was a little over the line. Now, when I was growing up and be that guy in the Big East, that was Big Monday, basically. You saw one of those every once in a while in the 80s, but this is no longer the 1980s. I think it is a message that you send the suspensions. Powell probably could have been suspended for more when that kind of happens, and it happens on the same week as you have something similar go down in the NBA. So, my feeling on it is you've got to have harsh suspensions here. And this is one weekend after North Carolina storms the court, and you had, alleged allegations of punches being thrown on players and coaches and that kind of thing. I just, it has no place in the sport. And I know I sound like an old man here, but that suspension's probably light 3 games, given what happened and what could happen when you're dealing with, I know they're being paid now, but they're still college athletes.
I know the Johnnies won, but can it be any sort of a rallying cry coming out of that game for St. John's?
They're good. I tend to, I don't want to say overvalue them when I'm seeding Big East teams, but it's the hard part when you're projecting a St. John's or a UConn as you look, on one hand, 11 in a row. I mean, yes, they're playing really good, but they're 3-4 against quad 1. And we always hyper focus on the quad 1. But I don't think there's anything wrong with this St. John's team when you're kind of breaking down their outlook down the rest of the regular season. It obviously points to the second game against UConn. But I think Rick Pitino, I tend to trust him. I probably the 2 coaches I tend to overvalue when I'm doing bracketology for Sporting News are John Calipari and Rick Pitino, because I still think both of those guys can coach at the places they're at. And it wasn't a coincidence they played in the tournament last year.
You mentioned UConn. Let's talk about Dan Hurley's squad, who just survived Georgetown in a high-scoring affair, 79-75, as you see on the screen. So able to get past, obviously didn't cover. You had DeMary in that game against Georgetown go for 15 and 12. Nice, obviously, performance out of him. But is UConn a team that, just given the coach, given the pedigree, I know the talent has changed over year to year as it tends to, but still, you can get them inside, I don't know, the top 10 anyway in championship futures, ballpark 17-1, 18-1. Are we sleeping at all on the Huskies?
Maybe a little. And we talked about the Big 12 in the last segment, but a team like UConn that's 6-2 in quad 1. And also, are they better than those Big 12 teams? I mean, they're right on the line as a number 1 seed now. They've got a big week this week. They play Creighton and Villanova. I think that Villanova game will be a lot of fun. But, they're still obviously a national championship contender. It might come down to 3-point shooting. I say that a lot, and it becomes a key stat in the tournament. But all it takes is one bad night from 3, and you're out. And I think UConn is well-rounded enough as they have enough 3-point shooters that they can go out and make another deep run under Dan Hurley.
So if you look at the odds to win the Big East, we're looking at UConn at -240. We were just talking about Pitino's St. John's squad. That's at +165. Then, of course, Nova, and things could shift if you get a big upset coming up. But Villanova right now is 100-1. So really barely a part of the conversation. But I won't ask you if the odds are appropriate. What I will ask you is the right team favored?
I mean, if you believe St. John's can go in there on February 25th and win the game, then go for it. They do have a slightly easier schedule down the stretch. I mean, that's the big game. I think UConn's got a couple tests. They also play Seton Hall, who's right on the bubble at 7-7 in the Big East. So if you believe, you've got kind of the insurance. St. John's could lose that game, and UConn could lose another game. So that's why I think it's not a bad swing to say, hey, I'll take St. John's, and I think they're the team to win the Big East. But it is really close between the Huskies and the Red Storm.
Do you have a favorite team right now in terms of the one you envision cutting down the nets?
I think Michigan, with the amount of guys that they have that can score, 8 guys averaging 7.8 points or more, the way that they're getting through. Now, anything can happen if they turn over the ball, but Dusty May and the Michigan Wolverines look like the team to beat, heading into a huge week at Purdue and a blockbuster against Duke on Saturday.
Bill Bender, again, Sporting News senior writer. We're going to go from one Sporting News guest to another. Vinny Iyer is going to join us next for NFL Draft Talk. I'll say hello for you, Bill. Thanks so much.
The level of hockey is being played. Like, if you're not really into the NHL, you should watch this and you will enjoy it. Like, it's a different level of hockey. Like, the NHL, basically, there's like 6 really good guys on each team. And in the Olympics, like, every guy is good. Like, it's next level. It's something to behold.
Winter Game Central, only on SportsGrid.
Road trips to Kentucky and Tennessee, which are pressure environments where mistakes can snowball a team quickly. And not even listen out of those games there. How about the home games they have left with Alabama and Florida, who bring size, who bring pace, and physicality that punish you on both ends of the floor.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
The Patriots postseason to the worst regular season of the last umpteen years. Fair enough?
Fair.
All right. So the Patriots postseason, they averaged 1.13 points per drive, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The winless Cleveland Browns about 10 years ago averaged 1.22.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
We are back here on NewsWire. Adam Kaufman with you, and Vinny Iyer joins us here, also from Sporting News on Twitter at Vinny Iyer. Vinny, it's good to see you. It's hard to believe that we are only a couple months and change away from the NFL draft. I mean, the season obviously just ended. If you're a Patriots fan, a Seahawks fan, you almost kind of, I don't know, like shake your head at how quickly some of this stuff moves here. But the draft is coming, and I want to start with you. We'll get into, obviously, your big board and your top players across the board. But I want to start specifically at the quarterback position, because most assume that Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman winner, the champion out of Indiana, it's a foregone conclusion. This guy is the number one pick going to the Raiders and replacing Geno Smith to become that team's franchise QB. Is it that clear for you? Is there any chance this team goes in a different direction?
I think if they went in a different direction, it would have to involve a team being aggressive to trade up for that pick, because it definitely could happen here, because you don't have a lot of valuable quarterbacks near the top. Ty Simpson, immediately the next guy on the board, you have a lot of question marks with the way things ended, the way he played, his overall upside for the NFL. So immediately there's a question at the next quarterback. It's not a very good class. Everyone is looking more at next year's class. So, yeah, the Raiders could try to get a good offer and move down from there. But if they stay there, I don't think you can miss that shot at the potential franchise quarterback. This team has struggled quite a bit to find somebody they want since they had Derek Carr playing somewhat well. I mean, he was never the top in the league, but he was a guy that they could at least pay a second contract to and keep around for a while and win some games with. So, look, you can't blow this. I mean, they've been cycling through Aiden O'Connell and Geno Smith. They can't go out there and say, we're just going to be happy with what we have at quarterback. But unless they get a good offer with multiple picks, and that's what it's going to take, as it always does with the number one overall pick, I think they have to stay there and take the quarterback. I think he's also a good fit for what they want to do in the new offense of Clint Kubiak.
Yeah, and I'll take it a step further, Vinny. This is a terrible QB class. Again, you have Mendoza at number one, conceivably, and then you have Ty Simpson, who you mentioned, who is probably going to be on, late anyway, into the 20s potentially in terms of his draft position. You scan the board. We're so used to, you know, 5, 6 QBs potentially going in round one. I don't think anyone is overdrafting, Garrett Nussmeier or Trinidad Chambliss or Cade Klubnik, certainly not Carson Beck. These are day 2, day 3 even guys, maybe mostly day 2, but even still, they're not day 1. They're not going in round 1, any of these dudes after Simpson, I wouldn't think. So I don't know. Does desperation step in to where you feel like if you are in the Raiders position or even a team that needs a QB that could strongly consider someone like Ty Simpson, do you have to act, or are you willing as a franchise to just take another position of need and take a step back and say, like you said, next year's just better for us?
Yeah, you also have to look at where you are right now. I mean, you look at a classic example. We had a few years ago the Bryce Young, Caleb Williams thing, right? If the Panthers had kind of not made that move, they'd probably have Caleb Williams. The Bears would have Bryce Young, or something like that would have happened, right? And the Panthers would have had a better feeling going forward over the next 10 years. I know both teams are playoff teams, but I think you can safely say you'd rather have Caleb Williams. So you got to be careful about what you do. You can't force it. The Steelers forced it a few years ago in the first round with Kenny Pickett. It was not a very good draft class with Malik Willis and all the options that they had in that class. So again, forcing it puts you back more, I think. So make sure you're confident that guy can be a big winner for your team. Look, it's worked out for most of the teams just a couple of years ago with Williams and Daniels and Drake May and Bo Nix, but then you have J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix Jr. who haven't worked out. So look, I think you just have to be careful. Don't force the issue, but the Raiders so need a quarterback, and if they pass on Mendoza, I think they have to get compensation, at least from the Jets picking behind them. They need something to make that move, or they got to take the quarterback.
Anyone who hasn't seen it, Vinny wrote a thorough, real deep dive into his top 120 in the upcoming draft, available for you on the Sporting News website. Let's look at your top 7, however, which of course only features the one QB, but after that, sprinkling the board and a lot of defensive players, basically all defensive players, or at least a strong mix anyway. You have Reuben Bain Jr. at edge, Caleb Downs, the safety, Arvell Reese, linebacker, Jeremiah Love, running back, and a running back at top 5. You're hoping for a transcendent talent at that point. Jordan Tyson is a wide receiver, and of course, back at edge, David Bailey. What's your process in terms of ranking these guys that way?
Yeah, I think if you look at those positions, I think some of the impact is what we just saw on the field. I mean, there's no doubt Fernando Mendoza and Reuben Bain really gave us a lot to think about when they made those playoff runs with Indiana and Miami, respectively. You saw what kind of levels they were and playing against the biggest competition. That's kind of a nice little extra bonus you get in the scouting process right near the end of the career. How do they do well in those clutch moments of those biggest opponents and do it in multiple games? So I think you saw that with both those guys. Now, with Caleb Downs and Arvell Reese, take your pick. They slightly are different in terms of their position, but they can still make a lot of plays for defense. They're hybrid guys that the NFL really covets. You can just put them in different places, linebacker, safety, and get some big plays. So I think you start there. In the offensive tackle, I think it's another strong class for that. You're getting more and more guys that could fill into the back half. And then wide receiver is pretty deep as well. Jordan Tyson, look, it could be Carnell Tate. It could be Mekhi Lemon. It could be a few guys really emerging as that top wide receiver. But I think the interesting guy, of course, when we ever see a running back, Jeremiah Love, where we go with the Chiefs, for example, take a shot at him. So I'm really intrigued to see what team is ready to pull the trigger on running back, because you can say, look, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, they've worked out pretty well for these teams picking early. Mm-hmm. And eventually he saw it with Saquon when he got on the right team, and Christian McCaffrey's been doing it throughout his career. So sometimes these special backs are hard to ignore, and they can have a big impact on your team.
Yeah, we'll find out in due time if Ashton Genty, for instance, is one of those guys. Not so much in his rookie year, but he's young. Now, in terms of who has the most to work with, however, the Jets You're looking at a dozen total picks coming up here, 2 in the top 16. The Raiders, we mentioned, have the number 1 pick, plus another maybe 9 or 10. The Browns, couple of first rounders, 10 picks gives them elite capital. Steelers, who still need to figure out their QB position, you would think Aaron Rodgers makes sense in a Mike McCarthy reunion, 5 picks in the top 100. And the Patriots, again, coming off of an unlikely Super Bowl appearance, 10 or 11 picks, depending on how everything shakes out with compensatory picks and whatnot. And so, is there a team that you think is positioned the best to really make an impact if it does draft well?
Yeah, I think you just have to look at, are they okay at quarterback? And if they are, then that kind of opens things up, right? If you need a quarterback in this draft, we just talked about it, unless you're picking number 1, you're a little bit out of luck. So then you have to look elsewhere. What positions can be boosted around the quarterback? So I'm looking at the Titans. I know their draft capital is interesting here, but they do have Cam Ward. I think I like their coaching combination of hires. They can do things to help their offense and defense. So that's a team I'm looking at. The other team that you have to look at are the Giants, right? They kind of are a little flexible here with their needs. I know offensive line and wide receiver are some needs for them, but their defense has a good foundation. If they go after the secondary or get some offensive line help early, I don't think they have to force any position there. So they're in good shape. I don't think you necessarily have to have the 2 picks. I think with the Jets and Browns, I think the question is, do they take a shot on that second first rounder on a Ty Simpson or Garrett Nussmeier, or just take a flyer, say we need to take a shot at quarterback? So that's going to be interesting, but we know they can't miss the first player either, because look, the Jets and Browns have a variety of needs they got to fill, and they got to hit on those picks and can't afford to waste any.
Vinny, we got about 20 seconds. The Patriots, again, viewed as having had a fluky run to the Super Bowl, so they're not high on the odds board in terms of championship futures for next year. The defending champion, Seattle Seahawks, are at the top at plus 750, followed by the Rams, the Ravens, the Bills, Packers, Chargers, Eagles, in that order. Where would you sprinkle some cash?
I would go off the board and go to Kansas City. That's all I'm going to say. You always look at the Chiefs, and you can never
keep an eye on that Tyreek Hill reunion. I'm telling you, now that he's out, Vinny Iyer, Sporting News. Thank you, sir.
The level of hockey is being played. Like, if you're not really into the NHL, you should watch this and you will enjoy it. Like, it's a different level of hockey. Like, the NHL, basically, there's like 6 really good guys on each team. And in the Olympics, like, every guy is good. Like, it's next level. It's something to behold.
Winter Games Central, only on SportsGrid.
Road trips to Kentucky and Tennessee, which are pressure environments where mistakes can snowball a team quickly. And not even listen at those games there. How about the home games they have left with Alabama and Florida, who bring size, who bring pace, and physicality that punish you on both ends of the floor.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
The Patriots postseason to the worst regular season of the last umpteen years. Fair enough?
Fair.
All right. So the Patriots postseason, they averaged 1.13 points per drive, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The winless Cleveland Browns about 10 years ago averaged 1.22.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All we're going to move away from our friends at the Sporting News family for a moment and bring in another from right here at SportsGrid. Host and analyst, our pal Tom Vecchio, joins for the next couple of segments to hang out and talk through Olympic hockey and Major League Baseball futures because, of course, spring training is underway, baby. So we'll get there next. Let's start in the Olympics, however. I know it's kind of a quiet day today on the ice for the men. The women are out there, obviously, and Team USA went out and did what it was supposed to do this morning. But in terms of, I don't know, how are you, Tom, collecting your thoughts in terms of what you've seen from the men so far and projecting ahead, looking toward tomorrow's slate?
Well, for today, I'm sweating out an under 6.5 on the women, so waiting for that to come through. But for the men, it's good to see that they got the bye. They're waiting, the U.S. men are waiting to play the winner of Latvia versus Sweden. It's very clear that Sweden is the better of those two teams. A lot of people would argue that Sweden's the third best team in this entire tournament, but that makes it an extremely tough draw for Team USA and getting the third best team, and that's just in the quarterfinals. So Sweden will be on a back-to-back. They play on Tuesday. Team USA will play on Wednesday, the winner of Sweden versus Latvia. And when it comes to Sweden, they have an awesome team. It's just really that simple. It's not as good as Team USA. It's not as good as Team Canada. They will be on a back-to-back, but their entire roster is comprised of NHLers. And these are top tier NHLers. William Nylander is obviously, one of their top scorers. Mika Zibanejad, we know the list goes on and on. Rasmus Dahlin, Victor Hedman, et cetera, et cetera. So it is a very tough test for Team USA. I would lean towards the under in that game. I assume it's going to be 5.5. That's where I would lean. The U.S. have to come out and they have to play super tight. After they get through that game, or whichever team gets through that game, there is reseeding after the quarterfinals. So Canada's the number 1 seed. Team USA is the 2 seed. Things will be reseeded after the quarterfinals.
Just saw it on your screen, but the U.S. out to a 3-0 start. You talked about the bye, obviously, but those wins, 5-1 over Latvia, 6-3 over Denmark, 5-1 over Germany. That Valentine's Day game, the win over Denmark, which was sweaty there for a little while. It was 4-3 the Americans were leading. I started to get texts from people saying, Jeremy Swayman's going to cost us the gold. And my response to people there is, look, I mean, they're playing back-to-back. You're not going to have Hellebuck out there for both. I just don't think as this tournament moves along into, medal rounds, that type of thing, that Jeremy Swayman's going to play in a meaningful game. You're going to ride Hellebuck in the same way that he is ridden during the NHL season. Do you see it any differently?
I don't. And, one of the goals, I'm not going to say was Swayman's fault. Like that, it was a very weird angle coming off the boards. So I'm not going to blame him on that one. But it's going to be Hellebuck. It's really that simple. He is the better goalie. That's just a fact. We have a multiple-time Vezina winner, a player that's been trusted at the highest level before, whether it be the Four Nations last year or previous World Championships for Team USA. It's going to be Hellebuck in there for Team USA. When it comes down to how the USA has been playing, it's been good. I think they've peaked at times, but there have been areas or times of the game versus Denmark and versus Latvia where they just didn't have their A game. And you can't have that versus Team Canada, presumably in the gold medal game, right? Like they were better than Latvia. They got through like the slow part and they ended up winning. Same thing versus Denmark. They got through the slow part. They made some mistakes, but they ended up winning just because they're a better team. You can't have those slow parts against a team like Canada because Team Canada has just as much, if not more talent compared to Team USA. So they need 60 minutes of 100% A-plus hockey or they will lose.
Canada has eviscerated its opponents. The goals margin 20-3. You're looking at 5-0 over the Czechs, 5-1 over the Swiss, 10-2 against France to, again, in the preliminary round, go 3-0 like the U.S. Now, you can get plus money on the Americans to win the gold. You can get, obviously, plus money on them to win the silver. There are a lot of people, based on the talent discrepancy, that are just forecasting, expecting it's going to be those two just as it was in the Four Nations when the Americans did beat Canada early and then lost the gold medal game to the Canadians. And some people look at it and say, it's their sport. Of course they won. Like, look how much talent there is. Look how good there is. But there is especially coming off the Four Nations, really a gold or bust mentality for the U.S. for the first time in a long, long time. Remember, the Americans have now won on the ice, the men going, since 1980, since the miracle on ice. So, I mean, do you think that the talent gap between those two is that large, or is, U.S. to win the gold a reasonable bet?
I think it's a reasonable bet based on the price that we're getting, but I do believe there is a talent discrepancy when it comes to Team USA versus Team Canada. Looking at the top end talent that Canada has, if we were just going to rank the best players in the Olympics, it's arguable to say that the three best players in the Olympics without any stats are just all on Team Canada. It's Connor McDavid, it's Nathan McKinnon, and it's Cale Makar. Those are the three best players arguably in the world, and then Leon Draisaitl could be fourth. It's tough to put an American as the number one player in the world. We just can't be doing that. So at best, we have the fourth or fifth best player. And again, the talent discrepancy is tough. Not having Seth Jones there, Florida Panthers defenseman who got hurt, not playing for Team USA, Adam Fox not playing for Team USA, not having some of those top-end guys is an issue. Can we trust Zach Werenski and Charlie McAvoy and Quinn Hughes to shut down their top players? Sure, but I still have some issues with the back end of Team USA defense. And when you have Macklin Celebrini out there alongside Connor McDavid and Mitch Marner and Nathan McKinnon, there's just too much top-end talent that has me worried that Team USA can't win the gold.
In terms of the games tomorrow, again, there are 4 for the men, and the U.S. not involved, Canada not involved, as we talked about with those buys. You have 4 heavy favorites, as a matter of fact, between the Swiss, Germany, the Czechs, and Sweden. Is there a particular spot that you're targeting?
It would be Czechia and Denmark. It would be under 6.5. And, this is a spot where I said this from the beginning, pre-tournament, pre-Olympics. I believe Czechia can win the bronze medal. That's how I view them. I think they are a very good team. They have plenty of experience. They have plenty of talent. Denmark is a good team, though, and it really comes down to the defense and goaltending for them. Frederik Andersen, goalie for the Canes, will be in net for Denmark. Again, he's a proven goalie. He's had his ups and downs throughout his NHL career, but he's been in the playoffs. He's made deep playoff runs. If Denmark wins this game, it will be under. So I lean under on this game, under 6.5. I think Czechia can win this game high scoring or low scoring, but Denmark would be one of the only underdog to win any of the games tomorrow.
Well, I know you're sweating the under 6.5 and the American women against Sweden. It's good news for you. It's 5-0, and there's only a few minutes left. You're getting awfully close. In fact, under 5.5 is minus 230. So you got a goal cushion at the moment, Vecchio. I'm feeling good for you. I don't want to jinx anything going to break here, but I'm feeling good about your bet, and I hope it comes through. We're not going to let Tom go, though. We're going to come on back and go to the Diamond. Spring training is underway. Florida, Arizona, futures talk coming up here on NewsWire.
Cowboys. Like, they're competitive every year. They're going to win a Super Bowl? No, but at least at the beginning of the season, like, I have aspirations to make a playoff, maybe win the division and see what we can do. For the Raiders, every day, the minute you kick off week number 1, you are out of the playoff picture. You stink and can't perform. That's tough because you don't get a 20-year career as a defensive end typically in the NFL. So your time now is to strike. I have all the money. Now I want to win.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
So Gary Bettman wants the USA to win because he knows the bump that they can get out of this. Canada wins, and it's like, yeah, whatever, right? And the level of pressure on Canada in this is next level. It's like it's equivalent to like Argentina in soccer or something, Brazil. It's one of those like, yeah, if you lose, don't bother coming home.
Winter Games Central, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Road trips to Kentucky and Tennessee, which are pressure environments where mistakes can snowball a team quickly. And not even listening at those games there, how about the home games they have left with Alabama and Florida, who bring size, who bring pace, and physicality that punish you on both ends of the floor.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
We're back here. We got Tom Vecchio with us, host and analyst across SportsGrid. As you know, we're talking MLB futures here, Tom. It's hard to believe, especially in the New England area where there's snow all over the place, that baseball is coming. But sure enough, it is. And let's stay in the Northeast, but let's go to Philadelphia and the drama that surrounds Bryce Harper, who is coming off a down year, but we know a superstar player, obviously, a guy who has accomplished quite a bit in his extensive career, a champion at that. But Dave Dombrowski, the whatever president or general manager, whatever his title, but the de facto decision maker there for the Phillies, is kind of rubbing his star the wrong way. Question whether or not he is still an elite player right now, and Harper reacted.
I mean, I don't get motivated by that kind of stuff. You know, I for me, it was kind of wild, the whole situation of that happening. I think the big thing for me was, you know, when we first met with this organization, it was, hey, you know, we're always going to keep things in-house, and we expect you to do the same thing. And so, you know, when that didn't happen, kind of took me for a run a little bit. So, I don't know. You know, it's part of it, I guess. You know, it's kind of a wild situation. You know, that even happening. Obviously, I didn't have the year that I wanted. Obviously, I didn't have the postseason I wanted. My numbers weren't where they needed to be. I know that, and you know, I don't need to be motivated to be great, you know, in my career or anything else. So that's just not a motivating factor for me. You know, for Dave to come out and say those things, it's kind of wild to me still.
How do you
Certainly
feel about it, Tom?
on.
What do you think? What's this do to the clubhouse?
You know, there's one side of it where Bryce Harper is saying he's not motivated by that just because he's going to say that. But, you know, deep down, he might be. Deep down, he might want to prove people wrong, or he just might want to prove Dave Dombrowski wrong. That's a very clear thing. It's also, you know, the reasonable thing to say is that I don't think a GM saying that about any player is a positive thing for a locker room, especially given where they are at the start of the season. If this was the middle of July or August and Bryce Harper was on an 0 for 30 streak or something, and the Phillies had slipped out of first place and all of a sudden they're back in a wild card, yeah, it's reasonable to say it at that point, because that is maybe a tactic in season that you need to use to get the engine going for the team. But to say that now, after the run that the Phillies have been on, where they've come up short in multiple postseasons, I don't see that as a beneficial thing. You know, they struggled to re-sign Schwarber. It took forever. They're trading away Castellanos, and now you're saying one of your best players isn't one of your best players. It doesn't sound good to me when it comes to the city of brotherly love. It's apparently not that.
Kind of poetic, though, given all the Castellanos memes, that there would be big news like this in Philadelphia. Looking at what to expect from the Phillies coming up here, a win total of 89.5 to win the NL East plus 190, to win the league at 8-1, the World Series at 16-1. Is anything with Philadelphia to you worth investing in?
You know, to me, I would say the team total under 89.5. And I think it's reasonable to say that last year they had a really nice run at things, right? The Mets collapsed. They weren't the same team that they once were. The Braves were terrible. And I'm saying that the Braves were terrible, and it's really largely due to injuries. They started off the year with no Acuna, no Spencer Strider. Strider comes back, he gets injured again. You know, we're having injuries to Schwellenbach and Smith-Shawver. Ozzy Albies got hurt. Like, there were so many injuries. Austin Riley had a down year for the Braves. So if they can stay healthier than they were last year, the Braves will just be factually better. The Mets had a crazy offseason where they lose Alonso, they lose Edwin Diaz, they bring in Bo Bichette, they miss out on Kyle Tucker. They made all these moves, but the Mets also should be better than where they were last year, especially the way they ended. So if you just add a few more wins for the Mets and for the Phillies, and the Marlins were surprisingly good last year, the Nationals are going to be terrible. Those just take X amount of wins away from the Phillies, and I think it's going to be a tough run for them this year. I think they're very good, just not as good as last year.
Tom, World Baseball Classic is approaching, and the Americans are sitting at basically, I mean, they're favorites, obviously, but are pretty close to even money, minus 115, as a matter of fact, as compared to Japan, roughly 4-1, Dominican Republic at almost 5-1, Venezuela plus 750, Puerto Rico and Mexico each at 27-1. Are the Americans, to you, that reasonable a favorite, that big a favorite?
I think they should be the favorite. Minus 115 is a bit much. If you told me I could get the Americans at plus 150, I would be far more interested in that. You know, Team Japan's obviously very good. Dominican Republic and Venezuela are both very good. You know, I want to say that they have the two best pitchers in the world, Team USA with Skubal and Skeens, but we're also not going to be getting 6-7 innings out of both of those pitchers. So it has to be like a collective effort from all of them to step up, and then they'll be the best team.
It's a very strange tournament when you consider the ramp up of these guys doing nothing to jumping into games that immediately mean something, and then having to come back for meaningless spring training ramp up games, and then of course the regular season right around the corner. Hopefully no big injuries above all else. Don Vecchio, thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Cowboys. Like, they're competitive every year. They're going to win a Super Bowl? No, but at least at the beginning of the season, like, I have aspirations to make a playoff, maybe win the division and see what we can do. For the Raiders, every day, the minute you kick off week number 1, you are out of the playoff picture. You stink and can't perform. That's tough because you don't get a 20-year career as a defensive end typically in the NFL. So your time now is to strike. I have all the money. Now I want to win.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
So you know Gary Bettman wants the USA to win because he knows the bump that they can get out of this. Canada wins, and it's like, yeah, whatever, right? And the level of pressure on Canada in this is next level. It's like it's equivalent to like Argentina in soccer or something, Brazil. It's one of those like, yeah, if you lose, don't bother coming home.
Winter Games Central, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Road trips to Kentucky and Tennessee, which are pressure environments where mistakes can snowball a team quickly. And not even listening to those games there, how about the home games they have left with Alabama and Florida, who bring size, who bring pace, and physicality that punish you on both ends of the floor.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
We got about a half hour to go here on NewsWire, and thrilled to bring in a good friend of the NewsWire program, Gilbert McGregor, who of course is out there at PHNX Sports. My apologies. Here on Twitter at Gil McGregor with an underscore. Gil, it's good to see you again, first and foremost. And I know we're going to get to a lot with the NBA, including these rumored Kevin Durant burner tweets. We'll hang out for a couple of segments, but where I want to start is just the aftermath of All-Star Weekend, because there were a lot of people. We'll skip Saturday. We'll come back to that. Just the day of this round-robin tournament between the Stars, the Stripes, the World. There were a lot of people on social media that were saying, the NBA's figured it out. The All-Star game is back. 3 great games, 1 quarter each, game winners across the board. Then you get to the championship one. It's a dud, and everybody again says, I'm out. It's over. So what do you think? Is this format working? Are we going to do it again?
I think so, Adam. I had fun watching the All-Star game yesterday, and in full transparency, I watched without the sound on, so I don't know if that would have taken from the experience or added to the experience, but just the fact that there was a high level of intensity, and everybody gave credit to Victor Wembanyama for setting the tone defensively and really setting the tone on both ends of the floor, and everybody else kind of followed. I appreciated the USA versus World format. I think that got the guys going a little more. Obviously don't have enough representation across a number of countries to do what the 4 nations like hockey did, but you got some vibes like that. The competitive juices were flowing. There was a sense of pride with a lot of the guys that were out there. And Anthony Edwards followed suit. The older guys, that team that had LeBron James and Kevin Durant and Donovan Mitchell being the younger guy on that team. It was really fun to watch. And obviously they kind of ran out of steam. It's tough for those guys who have so many miles in their bodies to play 3 consecutive quarters, but those first three quarters were very good basketball. To see Kawhi Leonard have that performance that he had, 31 points in 12 minutes of action. So many moments that you can hang on from yesterday. It kind of brought back the nostalgia that we are used to with All-Star games.
Well, and interesting too, because I guess they were able to successfully walk that line where, guys weren't, yes, they were playing and led by Wemby, as you noted, but it's not like you had this defensive slugfest where guys are, cracking down and playing their hardest, but they played hard enough to, make it so that where we were seeing across the board, other than that final close games. I mean, still to get, upwards of 90 points in a single quarter is absolutely absurd. But I don't know, for all the people that complain and have complained, and I've complained, you got to remember, when we were growing up watching All-Star games, it's not like these games were, 95 to 87. These were high scoring games too. You just weren't getting to 200 points.
Right, absolutely. And I think the quarter by quarter thing makes it a little bit different. Like, these guys are very competitive. And what you saw was those last 3 to 4 minutes of the quarters is when they turn the competitive juices on. And you got a chance to see the guys showcase their skills and do some things offensively, nobody trying to get hurt or anything like that. But then when it's winning time, as you saw quarter to quarter, guys made plays. Anthony Edwards' three-pointer to kind of put their team back up that he took in transition was a big one that stands out to me. The first game going into that overtime extra period stuck out to me as well. So the competitive juices were definitely there. And I think that it's that balance, right? Because I don't think you should expect these guys, because it's All-Star weekend, it's their break as well, to play as hard for 48 minutes as they would during a regular season when it actually means something for their respective teams. But at the same time, they're competitors. And when it's time to win or lose a game or a quarter or a 12-minute game, whatever you want to call it, you saw them turn up in that area, in that space, and that was really fun to see. So there's some things probably to tinker here and there to make it a little bit better, but I think they do have some type of form or version of what could work for this All-Star game.
Here's where I'm going to become, Grandpa Simpson. I'm going to be old man shaking cloud. Now, I bet on Damian Lillard to win the three-point contest, and okay, I'm happy that ticket cashed. However, I thought it was stupid that he was in the contest to begin with. I'm not angry about it, but I just thought it was dumb. Like, you're going to tell me you couldn't find a more deserving active player as opposed to a guy who's been ruled out for the entire season? It's not that, like, I don't like Lillard. I don't think he belongs. He's a three-time champ. He's an incredible shooter. But there are different ways that you could have a bring out Reggie Miller and have, like, other guys, have a Dennis Scott, have a retired player three-point contest, have a horse competition. I don't know what the answer is, but I don't need to see a guy who is not an active player this year participating in the three-point contest. But am I don't know, ridiculous about this?
I don't think that's ridiculous. I honestly thought it was a typo when they first announced that he was going to be in the three-point contest. So I'm thinking to myself, I haven't seen this guy play in an actual game since last April, and here he is. Can he move fast enough to win? And obviously, I wasn't doubting his shooting ability. I just didn't want him to have any hiccups in his rehab process back from that Achilles injury. And I had one theory that the Trailblazers got in the uniforms this year, and we haven't seen him in them yet. So now we're able to see him in those new uniforms, and they can sell more jerseys now that we've seen Damian Lillard win a three-point contest in them. But I joked around on one of our PHNX shows and just said that, hey, maybe they should have like a three-point masters competition where if you've ever won in your life and you still want to do it, they have a three-point championship for everybody who ever has won a three-point contest, whether it's Larry Bird, Damian Lillard, whoever it is. Let's have that as well. And I could add that to the All-Star Saturday events. I would say Saturday night, but it started in the afternoon this year. I will say the one thing that I've learned and what we've seen, the three-point contest has become the crown jewel of All-Star Saturday festivities. The dunk contest, a bit of a dud. They tried to bring shooting stars back, which I think they missed the mark there, but everybody is really excited about the three-point contest, and it is fun to see that stars are still willing to do that, and we might see Damian Lillard and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson do it next year, at least if Instagram is anything to say about it. So that part, at least, is exciting.
Bobby Valentine, back when he managed the Red Sox, when the team was really struggling, famously said, if this isn't rock bottom, we're going to discover new ends of the earth. I felt like that dunk contest was rock bottom. Between the participants that no one has heard of other than Jackson Hayes, and a 7-footer other than Dwight Howard, had no chance of winning that thing. One of his best dunks was a transition dunk that you would see in a regular season game. It was awful. Yeah. And the quality of dunks, Gil, were atrocious. Every dunk that Mac McClung put out post-contest on social media, all four of them were better than anything we got in that contest unless people want to react to, Jace Richardson putting his head off the side of the backboard and landing on his back when he could, by the way, have really hurt himself. That could have been an incredibly different scene there. That dunk contest was absolute trash. And I don't want to scrap it. I remember the days of MJ and Neek, but I don't know how to fix it. I don't.
And you know what, Adam, it's tough. And I understand why stars don't want to do it anymore. Like a couple years ago, I'm sure you remember very well, Jaylen Brown did it. And then when he did it, everybody clowned him for it. So why would a star player want to go back in there if social media is going to do everything that they did the first time around? It's a balance. I think if you're going to have guys who are relatively unknown, they have to do things that we've never seen before, because Mac McClung is known for his dunking ability, not necessarily known for what he's done on the NBA court yet, but he's done things year in and year out that we've never seen before. Now, if you have some stars in it, if you can get the star power back in there, I don't know how you incentivize the stars to do it, given the way social media is, given the way the money works. I think that people will go crazy for stars doing regular dunks because of the star power. But because they won't do it, I think that's an issue. I don't know if there's a number that will allow stars to do it, but I don't think that will happen anymore. So I think it has to be these relatively unknown guys trying to make names for themselves, but they have to bring the fire and do things that we haven't seen before, or else it's not going to be something that hits for us.
See, I think, I have the answer. I just don't think it'll ever happen. And the answer to me is this, because I agree with you. I don't think the stars are coming back, unfortunately. And so if it's not going to be that, I don't need to see the Carter Bryants and the Keyshawn Johnsons and guys, people that you haven't heard of that are on G League, borderline NBA two-way contracts. Like, let's just throw in the towel on it and let's make it an and one mixtape. Like, you want to grow the game, right? NBA, like, let's just bring in globetrotters and guys that have insane athletic ability and let them throw down and put on a show, and the NBA players can be courtside with their phones and shooting video and all the wow shots from Giannis and all the, like, let's do that. Let's just do that and embrace it, and at least it would be entertaining.
Yeah, absolutely. There's that would be fun. The other thing I think could work is if guys have like dunks that they recreate from the past and they do their own spin on it, and we do that. But, we'll see.
Well, don't forget, Jaylen Brown tried that with the D Brown, Reebok pump shoe, and he still got made fun of. It still didn't work. More with Gilbert Gregor when we come on back.
You're just trying to always build around what somebody does well. What is the DNA, the nucleus of what they do? Yeah. And everybody who gets to the tour is great at something because they're the top 1% of the 1% of golfers around the world. So I think people sometimes forget that, that won't work. Well, if you'd gone back 15 years, people would look at Scottie Scheffler and probably go, that's not going to work.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Super Bowl Sunday, about $870 million was traded. Again, I caution you, that is not the same as sports betting handle for a variety of reasons, but we also saw Nevada sportsbooks, which includes Las Vegas, only took about $133 million in handle. That was its worst performance in the decade in terms of total handle on the game. Now, we don't have ratings, we don't have a lot of other things. There's a lot of reasons for that.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Patriots postseason to the worst regular season of the last umpteen years. Fair enough?
Fair.
All right. So the Patriots postseason, they averaged 1.13 points per drive, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The winless Cleveland Browns about 10 years ago averaged 1.22.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
So Gary Bettman wants the USA to win because he knows the bump that they can get out of this. Canada wins, and it's like, yeah, whatever, right? And the level of pressure on Canada in this is next level. It's like it's equivalent to like Argentina in soccer or something, Brazil. It's one of those like, yeah, if you lose, don't bother coming home.
Winter Games Central, only on SportsGrid.
joined here by Gilbert McGregor from PHNX Sports, and we're talking about all things NBA. We'll get to second half futures, performances, and expectations, all of that. But we teased it before. Let's get into it a little bit. This alleged Kevin Durant burner situation where, as we know, and you said it, we were talking about it during the break, Kevin Durant, anyone who is a basketball fan knows that this guy is very online, chronically online. And there have been suspicions of him having burners over the years, but nothing proven. And this new one is not proven. But coming out over the weekend, some pretty damning tweets from a burner account out there calling out a number of people that he has either played with or played for over the years, certainly local to you there in Phoenix and covering the Suns. Devin Booker, this is a tweet. Devin Booker and Frank Vogel are dictators. Stalin and Hitler, Mussolini and Kim Jong-un. The Suns are my team when we lose, Devin Booker's team when we win. On and on. I mean, there are a lot of great tweets in here. What do you make of this whole situation?
0 to 100 pretty quickly as far as stuff kind of coming out with that potential alleged burner account. Now, I know he's admitted to having them in the past, and he's been caught up when he forgot to switch accounts, replying to some accounts maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago with some stuff about his exit from Golden State. So the evidence kind of points toward it being potentially him. I obviously don't want to point out and just say definitively that it is, but the big thing, and you and I discussed this as we were preparing for this segment, just if it is him, any part of it, any of it isn't doctored, he's got some bridges to probably repair, whether it's with his former teammates, former coaches, current teammates that he's playing with, whatever it is that he said that is true from him. It blows my mind a little bit that kind of is what it is. And I know that people have their opinions about coworkers that they've had, but just sharing it in that form is a very interesting thing to see as far as that goes. And it does make me wonder, again, where is this coming from and what that means for those relationships if this is proven to be true.
Yeah, I mean, KD, do it like the rest of us. Do it in the group chat and just hope your phone isn't seized by the government. That's really what it comes down to. Don't go do it out there with a burner out there under a different name.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, crazy. So let's talk about your Suns. 32 and 23, 9.5 back, obviously, of the Thunder, but only a game and a half out of a playoff spot. That 1 through 6 in the West, as it sits right now, top seed in the play-in tournament. You know, long way to go, I realize, but this team, I don't know what your expectations were going into the year. Mine for Phoenix, very low. I thought we'd get something similar to what we saw last year. So really just overshooting expectation as far as I'm concerned, but is it sustainable led by Booker?
Absolutely. I mean, talk about expectations. This is a team that surpassed their preseason over-under win total before All-Star break, which is a feat in itself. And now they're somewhat playing with found money as far as where they are this season. They stumbled a little bit into the All-Star break, but I think they just ran out of gas. This is a team that plays extremely hard. They outplay teams every night just with their effort, and I think that takes a toll on teams. So coming out of the All-Star break, I do think that we'll see a surge from this team that just picked up Haywood Highsmith, who spent some time with the Miami Heat in the past several years, as kind of an added player to add to that group of guys that play really hard for this team. The schedule doesn't get any lighter, especially in the Western Conference, but they've proven the ability to compete and beat anybody this year. So as far as where I see them landing, I think that a top 6 seed is very much within reach. I think the Lakers, who are ahead of them, still are a very flawed team. And I think that they are primed to surpass the Lakers. It's interesting. The Rockets, who knows what happens now, they're ahead of the Suns as well. They could implode if this stuff is proven to be true. So I think the Suns right now have a 15% chance to finish with the 5th seed and maybe a 16% chance to finish 6th. I think that they finish around 5th or 6th, and then how far they go depends on first-round matchups. So they're a fun team, and they're going to have fun the second half of the season.
A lot of people going into the year just assumed the Oklahoma City Thunder, who really didn't have any notable offseason changes, they're going to run it back and they're going to roll to another title. And you know, it's hard to argue against the talent on that squad. And really, despite the 42-14 record, difficult to properly evaluate any struggles because this team has had so many issues staying healthy of late. But I still look at this team and, you know, on the one hand, I say, best team in the NBA, deepest, and why couldn't they repeat? But then there's another part of me that looks at the head-to-heads with the Spurs and says, man, if that's a 7-game series that we're looking at in the playoffs, this team is certainly beatable because San Antonio, for whatever reason, has had OKC's number all throughout.
Yeah, I think that the big reason is that 7'5" big man that they have down there in San Antonio. Victor Wembanyama is a guy who he just is a matchup nightmare on both ends of the floor for basically every team in the NBA, because how do you deal with a guy that's that tall, that has that skill set that he has? Now, the Thunder, as you mentioned, have not been healthy basically at all this year. As soon as one guy comes in the lineup, one or two guys leave, and we haven't really seen them at full strength at any point this season. But I still think they're the team to beat. I actually think that the Nuggets are their toughest battle, or their biggest obstacle to get back to the finals, knowing Nikola Jokic and what he's capable of. And the fact that they pushed them to 7 games last year, as good as the Thunder were, I think the Nuggets are much better this year, considering bringing back Bruce Brown, adding Tim Hardaway Jr. If the Nuggets can get healthy, I think it's between the Nuggets and the Thunder in the Western Conference. I think the Spurs need to have that year of kind of learning what the playoffs are like, as we see with most young teams. But all that being said, it's going to be very, very exciting to watch the Western Conference playoffs unfold.
Go to the East before we're out of time. The Celtics are really exceeding most people's expectations, given the losses in the offseason and what they've done, still not having Jason Tatum, sitting 35-19, 5.5 behind Detroit for the top spot in the East, and increased reports that Tatum is going to play at some point this year. Hell, he's partnered up with NBC to release videos documenting his progress over the coming weeks here on a weekly basis. I feel like it's only a matter of time, probably inside the next 3 weeks, we see this guy back, as far as I'm concerned anyway. Are the Celtics the team to beat in the Eastern Conference?
It's tough to say. I think the Pistons still kind of have to learn some things. They are a flawed team. The Celtics are definitely outplaying expectations, and bringing Tatum back would be massive for them. If he comes back and can be incorporated pretty easily into what they're doing, they are the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. Now, it's a big few ifs there, knowing how big of a player that he is, but also knowing how great he is. That makes him very tough to beat. So I think it's between the Celtics and the Pistons. And also the Knicks might have something to say about that as well. They're figuring some things out. But the Eastern Conference, as quiet as it's kept, is going to be a fun race as well.
Gil McGregor on Twitter at Gil McGregor with an _. Of course, PHNX Sports. Gil, thank you so much, man. Always enjoy catching up.
Absolutely. Do it again soon.
You bet. We're going to come on back for our last licks here.
You're just trying to always build around what somebody does well. What is the DNA, the nucleus of what they do? Yeah. And everybody who gets to the tour is great at something, because they're the top 1% of the 1% of golfers around the world. So I think people sometimes forget that, that won't work. Well, if you'd gone back 15 years, people would look at Scottie Scheffler and probably go, that's not going to work.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Super Bowl Sunday, about $870 million was traded. Again, I caution you, that is not the same as sports betting handle for a variety of reasons, but we also saw Nevada sportsbooks, which includes Las Vegas, only took about $133 million in handle. That was its worst performance in the decade in terms of total handle on the game. Now, we don't have ratings, we don't have a lot of other things. There's a lot of reasons for that.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
The Patriots postseason to the worst regular season of the last umpteen years. Fair enough?
Fair.
All right. So the Patriots postseason, they averaged 1.13 points per drive, okay? Mm-hmm. The winless Cleveland Browns about 10 years ago averaged 1.22.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
So Gary Bettman wants the USA to win, because he knows the bump that they can get out of this. Canada wins, and it's like, yeah, whatever, right? And the level of pressure on Canada in this is next level. It's like, it's equivalent to like Argentina in soccer or something, Brazil. It's one of those, like, yeah, if you lose, don't bother coming home.
Winter Games Central, only on SportsGrid.
few more minutes here on NewsWire. Let's get to our last licks. Well, we got to start with all the chaos surrounding Kevin Durant. And again, the alleged burner that is supposedly his, and all of these tweets that have come out. And, it's really, as we talked about with Gil McGregor a moment ago, it's going to burn some bridges. So the list of players that Kevin Durant has gone after in the KDF, the Kevin Durant files, as people are referring to them. Kyrie Irving, Steve Kerr, Nikola Jokic. How do you go after Jokic? Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Luka Doncic, Jabari Smith, Alperen Şengün, and James Harden. So some former and current teammates and coaches in there. We talked about some of these. One notable to his current locker room, the Rockets franchise player Şengün can't shoot or defend. That one's not going to play nicely in the room, you would think, if in fact this is Kevin Durant. Some words about Jabari Smith that I won't use. They're not PC. Steve Kerr, with controversy around Kerr, and just some thoughts around that I'll let you look up on your own. Comments about Israel, if you can believe that. We mentioned the Devin Booker and Frank Vogel ones, and comments around the Suns earlier. He said, "Man, I miss Ben Simmons. At least he passed the ball," going back to his time with the Nets. Some comments about Kyrie Irving. "He didn't compete with me, but that triple-double addict Russell Westbrook did. If you don't run the cutoff and pass the ball to Steph Curry, the Warriors will cut you." A lot of interesting comments here made throughout by Kevin Durant. If it was Kevin Durant on this burner again, there have been burn allegations in the past where he's admitted to having them. Hasn't certainly admitted this one. He has gone quiet so far, has not tweeted from his actual account about this situation, but certainly was spotted all over social media walking around the All-Star events yesterday in LA, phone in hand, and you'd have to imagine reading about what was going on, and I'm sure a lot of people reaching out to him directly about it who have that inside line. So not great for KD as it sits right now. All right, let's go to last lick topic 2. Doug Gottlieb, who of course is a noted media professional and talk show host, podcast host, all of that. I know he's on hiatus from some of the media work to focus on the full-time job, which is being the head coach of Green Bay men's basketball. A bit of a post-game tirade yesterday in response to getting a technical foul late in the second half of a narrow loss.
I need the league to explain to me why I got a technical foul when I did not curse, I was not demonstrative, I did not leave my box. All I said was, that's the same play as the other end. Okay? All we ask is that there's a fair game. That's what we ask. Okay, CJ O'Hara goes and gets an offensive rebound. Their player dives at his legs. CJ gets called for a foul. I need Donnie at the league and the new commissioner to explain to me the disparity in the officiating. That's what I need explained to me. I got no problem with their team, their staff. They played hard. They did what they do. They play tough and they play aggressive. I need somebody to explain to me, okay, how just those two. There's others that I have massive issues with, okay? Others that have meshed, including every time we touched them, there was a foul in the second half. The last play of the game, just to get the ball, they're grabbing us and holding us. Okay, and I understand. If you're not calling that, that's fine. You had the exact same play at both ends in the last play of the game. The exact same play. The exact same play. So I need the new commissioner of the Horizon League to explain to me what a technical foul is when I don't leave the box, I don't curse, I'm not demonstrative. Okay, there was nothing that should have been called a technical foul.
A heated Doug Gottlieb, obviously, post-game there, even shaking microphones. It was a narrow loss, 75-72 to Milwaukee, who continues to struggle this year at 11-17. Credit to Gottlieb. He's working on turning this program around. Green Bay Phoenix is sitting at 15-13, even with that loss. But, yeah, again, heated after what we saw yesterday, and I hope he is able to get that explanation. Last lick number 3, Michael Jordan, not so concerned with everything going on at the All-Star game because it was a very successful time for his racing team. Tyler Reddick is obviously on his team there and victorious at the Daytona 500. Reddick drives for MJ's team and co-owns that group anyway, and Reddick goes out and explodes for the victory. A lot of championship celebrations. You see it there. Reddick and his family, I believe they all went out to LA for All-Star festivities after the fact as well. Jordan was there. There are some different things that are going around on social media in response to that, and the way he was handling the kid. That was a whole other thing. But anyway, want to thank all of our guests here across Newswire: Bill Bender, Vinny Iyer, Tom Vecchio, most recently, Gilbert McGregor, of course, Frank, Luke, the whole team behind the scenes. Appreciate these guys. Craig Mish, be back with you tomorrow right here on Newswire. I'm Adam Kaufman. We'll see you next time.